But yeah, so I'm here with Laila at Fitnescity, which is a fantastic facility, and I'm going to take some pictures for our show page just to show people what it looks like, and also, of course, we'll link to you know, your website and all that stuff, and when this episode goes out. But as our regular listeners know, I have been coming to the determination that I've known for a long time that there are metrics other than weight. Like I say in episode 2, it's called Weight Watchers because weight's easy. Not on the scale. Oh, no, I weigh 211 pounds. But there's a lot more to body composition than just weight. And it's very hard. So my trainer does, I train at Equinox, and my trainer is in Connecticut, close to my office.
What location do you go to?
The Darien.
Oh, okay.
So my office is probably about a mile and a half from that gym. And then in the city, I usually train at Park Avenue.
Oh, okay.
So I'm able to go around or form the circle sometimes. But so my trainer does a variety of multimodal assessments, including just measurements. The old pinch caliper, which always is super cold.
Yeah.
Then weight, and then they also have one of these. The process that Equinox uses is called in-body. Those are incredibly inaccurate.
Yeah, it's bioimpedance. It's not very. It's very sensitive to so many things that you can't trust it.
Too many variables.
Yeah.
And I was actually telling Laila that when I was a doctoral student at Georgia Tech, that I really, as part of an experiment, because I was a broke doctoral student and they paid us $50 to do experiments, I actually did what I call a full body immersion in a tank of water. And I mean, that is the. You tell me. Would you say that that's a much more accurate measure of actual body composition? Right?
Oh, absolutely. So underwater weighting, it is very accurate. The only problem with it is that you have to get wet, and it takes a little bit more time. So if you can do the same with the exact same results in terms of accuracy without getting wet and by in a shorter time, then it's much better. So which is actually what the bot did. It's very similar.
And this is what I'm fascinated with, is that in my reading, I was seeing that that's the case. So could you talk a little bit about what exactly the process is like?
Yes, sure. So, just to take a step back. So what we're trying to do when we measure with the body is to make sure that we are looking at body composition, not just the weight. And so what it gives you is the body fat percentage and the breakdown of fat mass and fat-free mass, right? And so the way it works in the case of the pot is by air displacement. So which means that it's, for people who have never seen it or don't know what it is, it's basically like a giant egg. It's a machine that is, very big. It looks like an egg, like a giant one. And basically you enter that machine and then you sit, relax and you sit there just for a very short period of time. It takes just a few minutes actually. And you are given a tube where you breathe, and then that's it, and then you breathe. And so the way it works, that's why, I was saying it's very similar to what you did, because the chamber, so that egg actually has a certain amount of air inside of it, right? And then when your body enters that chamber, closed chamber, it displaces a certain amount of air. And that amount that it displaces is basically the volume of your body. The volume that you occupy in space, right?
That's a brilliant idea. So instead of just placing water, you're just placing oxygen.
If you enter the water, it's the same thing. But here, you just displace the air inside the chamber. And so the difference is what is the volume of your body. And so there's one more thing also where you have to breathe, like I said, in the tube. And the reason why it is done is because there's also air in our lungs. So you have to subtract that because it's not supposed to go in your body volume, just to be even more accurate. It's usually small, but it's subtracted as well.
And lung capacity varies quite a bit from individual to individual.
Yes, so that's why it's better to actually, you just do it while you're inside that chamber. And so from your body volume, once we have a specific, measurement of your body volume, an accurate one, then from there, you can deduct your body composition. So how much fat and how much fat per mass. So that's how it works. It's a very quick process, and it is actually the gold standard for body composition analysis in terms of being, accurate, safe, and fast. So there is no X-ray, nothing. So it's basically just you enter a machine and then you exit, and that's it. It's almost like entering the water. So there are no risks actually.
Except that, and that's something. Every time that I talk to people about immersion, they don't like this electric current aspect.
Oh yeah.
And I'm like, well, I mean, it's indetectable, but but I mean, this sounds a heck of a lot better. I mean, having done that, this sounds a heck of a lot better.
And so we're in Manhattan, everybody's busy, so you don't have time to get wet and then change and then go to work. So most people do it in the morning before going to work or during lunchtime or something. So you just want to do it very quickly, and then you don't want this to be very a burden. So that's also an advantage.
Sure. Well, that's really incredible. Can we go back in time and let me do this before I start this? I would love to actually have. Because that's the thing, right? Is that you need accurate measurements. We need to be able to benchmark. And I did this whole podcast on the fly. I had told Laila that the thing that people ask me is always, how long did it take? How long did it take? And it took a long time. It took a heck of a long time to get it on my body. And it took a long time to get it off my body. And the thing, so I had been sort of hovering around this 220 mark for a while, dipping down, so 85 to 80 pounds off my body of mass, whatever that mass is. And I decided, you know what, I'm tired of the exercise regimen that I'm on, because we mix it up, but it's limited because I'm burning fat, and so it's lightweight and it's high rep, and there's a lot of it, and I want to build some muscle now. So I was like, I'm just going to do a push. I'm going to lose this last 20 pounds. And I'll do a podcast about it. Little naive me. And I did it, and here we are, and it actually speaks to people, and I'm delighted with that. But I wish that I would have taken another week or two to have figured out a better assessment plan. And so, alas, so that's something that I really recommend to people before they do this. Is get real data. Do you find that sometimes people are scared of the answers?
Sometimes, but sometimes it's good to be scared. Like if you go back to time when we had exams, there is something that or a big presentation or something. It's good to be a little bit, scared, not too much, just a little bit, because then it helps you, work towards your goal. And so especially when it's a journey like this, because certainly when you're trying to lose weight, one thing that you don't want to do is lose muscle or lose muscle instead of fat, because that is very, very frustrating. The scale is going to show you that you are dropping a lot because muscle is very heavy, but you might be actually losing muscle, and it's very, very easy to fall into that trap. So especially with diet. So that diet is a big component. We haven't talked about it, but it's a big component. It's not just training. And if you approach it in the wrong way, whether it's the training or the diet especially, then you might end up, losing a lot of weight on the scale. You would feel good because,
Yeah, this number, wow.
yeah, and the clothes might fit better or not, but then when you look at what you've achieved, it's probably not what you would like, because then you still have a very high amount of fat and your body fat percentage is probably very high. You're like, smaller, but you're not really, because you're losing muscle. So that is something that is, that's what one of the goals is to see. Ideally, you want to be increasing muscle and losing fat. And the only way to know that is to measure. To measure, the breakdown between the two.
With this composition,
Yeah.
this idea of composition, and this has been something that I've I talk with my clients a lot about the difference between things that I understand intellectually and things that I know from experiencing them. I can read a lot of books about flying an airplane, but until I get behind the wheel, I don't know if we call it a wheel, whatever you call that thing in the airplane, until I get in that cockpit and I grab that thing that looks a little like a steering wheel, I don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
And this is the issue here is I felt a lot of times when my weight would plateau, I would be like, I would rationalize all these reasons why without really understanding. And now I have a real understanding, if anything, because I have listeners who are listening to me and waiting for me to lose this weight. And it's really not, I need to excise that word, that phrase from my vocabulary. I'm not losing weight.
Losing fat.
I'm losing fat.
Exactly. So
and
sometimes it's not bad. It's not good to lose weight. Sometimes it's bad, because if you're losing all your muscle, if you're losing mostly muscle, then it's not. And sometimes we see that actually, and then with the tests, and then when you give the results to the client, they're like, oh my God, I had no idea. I was actually doing it all wrong. And they thought they had done something because they saw that their weight dropped, but then when they look at it, they actually lost muscle. So that's unfortunate, obviously, but at least they know. So
yeah, right. So tell me a little bit about your background, because how did you get into this business?
So it's basically started as a passion of mine. So I have mostly background in business, and I am fascinated by these things, not just, the body fat or even fitness, but just this idea that we could actually take a more rational, scientific approach with how we treat our bodies, which means that we're not just gonna start and go and follow a diet or a training just because it's trendy or someone is telling us, but we're going to actually be in control and look at the data, and from there make decisions, and then track, measure, see what happens, if it works, if not, and then you repeat the process. So it's and the reason behind that is that everybody's different, right? There is no such thing that works for everyone, so everybody's different, and the only way to know is to actually measure. And so I've been actually measuring, even before Fitnescity, pretty much everything that I can. I love collecting data, whether it's my blood glucose or cholesterol, body composition. It's just something that I find fascinating, to be able to know that much about yourself and make decisions. I feel that it's very empowering, and that's sort of like what we're trying to do and communicate to our clients, is that you can actually learn more, and you can be more proactive and more in charge by knowing where you are, and by actually building a plan and see if it works. Kind of like, you treat your body a little bit like a project, right?
Yeah.
Where you're a little bit more, to approach it in a more scientific way, and in a way that is more empowering, because you have the data. So that's sort of like what I'm fascinated about, and and so that's basically how we got started with Fitnescity a few years ago. And so right now, so we have actually, we don't do just the thought pod, so we have different types of services
Let
for
me,
measuring.
well, I want to pause right there because I want to talk about that. But I'm going to do my engineer a favor. Will you take your microphone and flip it so that the microphone part is on the outside? Because I think that it's rubbing against your skin, and I'm imagining him listening to this and making a face. So you probably want to put it on the other side. Okay.
Yeah, see,
Yeah,
this
sorry.
is the thing about being live, right? You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah,
Like
well,
life, you know.
but this is.
Is it better this time?
Much better.
Oh.
Yeah. So I find that that this is what people like about it is the spontaneity of it.
Real life.
It's just like real life. That's actually what I was gonna ask you about is Fitnescity. And I'm
Fitnescity,
saying
yeah.
it that way, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, I got it the right way. Yeah, I like the name. Fitnescity is a lot more than BotPod. You've got a lot of different kind of assessment tools. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, sure. So, like I said, our mission is to empower people to learn more about themselves so that they can build more personalized and more proactive plans to make changes in their lives. And so, lifestyle changes. And so, one way to do it is obviously to measure body composition. And there are different ways of measuring body composition, but we only stick to the ones that are accurate and, and clinically, valid and approved and FDA approved, I should say, like the BotPod. And then the other way, actually, in which you can measure, we haven't talked about it, is the DEXA scan. So that's also something that we offer to our clients. And it's a completely different story. So it works in a completely different way. Mm-hmm. It's basically like kind of like the closest thing to it would be an MRI, actually. Mm-hmm. So you lay down in a machine and then it scans you. Obviously, it's not as heavy as doing an MRI. It's
I've actually done that too.
Oh, perfect.
That was part of the same experiment.
Oh.
So this was 20 years ago.
20 years ago.
So it was really considered super cutting edge technology then. I mean, it is. I'm sure it's much more refined now than back then. But as I recall, so let me just see if it's the same thing. What he told me was they were taking hundreds of little tiny X-rays and piecing it together, building this imagery, right? Is that what it's like? Yeah,
and so and basically the way yes, and so when you do that, you're able to get not just the body fat measurement, but also regional body fat distribution. So it gives actually a lot more data than the BotPod. It's the same level of accuracy, it's the same level, but it gives you regional information, which means distribution, which means how much fat you have in different parts of the body, like the legs, the arms, the trunk, hips. So, which is very nice if you want to see actually where you're losing weight and losing fat or gaining muscle. And it also gives you other measurements like visceral fat, so that you can get from the BotPod. So it calculates how much amount of visceral fat, which is the bad fat that is, the cause of many cardiovascular diseases. And so that also is something that is interesting. And also, by doing that, another measurement that you get is bone density, which is basically how strong your bones are, which is very interesting because it's very interesting. I mean, it's very important data point as well. So the same, you can get it from the same test. So, but it's, like I said, it's a different technology, but it's also an alternative. And then we do actually a bunch of other tests. So the other one is the RMR, the resting metabolic rate, which goes hand in hand with this because it's mostly about nutrition. And it basically tells you or measures the amount or the number of calories that your body burns at rest. Which is very good if you're, lost journey is,
Very important.
Because as I was saying, everybody's different. So you could use approximately like formulas, for example, to estimate, but what if you're different? What if you're not the average person, which is very likely?
Well, and it'll say something like, are you active? Are you moderately active?
Yeah.
Are you sedentary? I mean, and so I think a lot of people probably aren't very honest in those appraisals, and they won't admit that they just sit on the sofa 25 hours a week. And yeah, so this sounds like a real dream to be able to
Yeah.
keep. I mean, how is that assessment done?
So this one is completely different. So all of our assessments are actually done with the presence of a clinical staff. So in the DEXA there's a physician, the other ones there's a clinical either dietitian or exercise physiologist. And so the way this one is done is, because there are different ways of doing it, just like the body fat, you could do it with in body, but you could do it in a more professional way. So the one we do is actually also in a clinical setting. And basically, you lay in a bed for about almost 45 minutes,
Wow.
and you breathe you have actually a canopy, not a canopy, which is basically, you look like an astronaut. You have something on your head like
That's
this,
cool. Okay.
and then you just breathe into it. So then it measures that as you breathe. And so what the measure that we get from there is the energy that you consume when you are resting, not doing anything. Which means if you were one day to not do anything, more or less, that's the number of calories that you would need. So it gives you a baseline, and then you add to that a little bit more about your activity. So that, and the other thing also that is very interesting is that it tells you what your body uses for fuel, which is very interesting if you're changing your diet, because it tells you whether your body is using more carbs or more fat to burn fat, for energy. And obviously you want to be burning fat, not carbs.
Right.
So it tells you, about your diet. It tells you whether your diet is good or not, and it's whether it's helping you to lose fat. So that's why, as you know, exercise and nutrition are very, very related. You can't do one without the other. So
And I see so many people trying to do one or doing the other. So they're either, I'm going to go on this diet, I'm going to be sedentary, or I'm going to run all this off, but I'm going to eat and drink. I'm going to be completely mindless about that part. And it's both. I tell my clients, because I get asked this all the time, is there a link between the mind and the body? And I'm like, it's the same thing, folks. I met a really brilliant doctor a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about what I talk about on this podcast. And he was saying that he thinks it's 90% awareness of your intake. Not only, and I say it's not only what you're eating, it's why are you eating it? Because people are so divorced from that. They don't realize how they use medicine as food. I've had clients who I say they have a food romance that, nothing else in my life is working, but I can make macaroni and cheese and it makes me feel so good. And I divorced myself. I don't have that food romance
that's
anymore.
very good. Yeah, a lot of people are actually, even when you're a kid, unfortunately, you are trained to or used to use food as a compensation for something good that you've done. So, let's get ice cream, or let's get, unhealthy meal at fast food because you were very, good or good grades. And so that builds actually that mindset. And then whenever something is not working in our lives, or we're just stressed or something, say, oh, actually I'm hungry, but maybe you are not. Most likely you are not. And so that's why it's not a healthy relationship to have with food.
I totally agree. You and I, and I know we got to wrap up in a minute, but you and I both are pretty shameless in our disclosure about our eating and our exercise and any other metric. In the last episode, I cleaned out my closet and put the last of my fat clothes on and took pictures of it. I loaded it, and I'm starting to toy with the idea. Ryan's going to urge me to start posting, shirtless photos. He's like, "You're ready, do it." And just between me and you, viewer, our listener, we're videotaping this as well as audio taping listeners. I don't know if I'm ready for that, but I feel I'm a lot closer. But I was really interested in looking at your website about just your disclosure about your own experiments on yourself.
Yeah. So like I said, this is more than a hobby, it's a passion of mine. I do it all the time. I like to collect information about myself and I actually like to share it. So I understand that many people don't want to do that, but for me, one of the benefits I get from that is the feedback because a lot of people look at it and then they tell you, hey, have you considered, because you cannot think about everything, have you considered adding your sleep data to this, your whatever you're trying to accomplish, experiment, if you're trying to learn whether something in exercise or diet is good for you, maybe you should factor in something else. And then you get the feedback. So I love that. And so yeah, I share pretty much everything, whether it's in a talk or a website. But you know, not everybody has to do that. It could be just for most people who just want to keep it for themselves. But you know, for me, it's like kind of like my passion. So I basically, yeah.
Well, and it's being genuine. I mean, this is the thing. So when they train you to be a psychologist or a counselor, you're not supposed to disclose about yourself ever. Like you're supposed to be what they call a blank slate. That's been a real, because my original training was in journalism. Flash forward, then I get into becoming a therapist, and so I'm getting told the exact opposite. Now I'm not supposed to disclose anything about myself. And what I found is that me sharing this data has been so helpful to other people.
Exactly.
So helpful. And you don't, like you said, they don't have to do it. We'll do it. And we'll share it sometimes shamelessly. I mean, I'll share all kinds of things now because I feel like it's helping people. I tell parents all the time, the most effective way you can change your child's behavior is modeling what you want to see.
Lead by example.
And, I start off every episode of this show saying that I was a hypocrite. I was talking to people about changing their lives and I wasn't changing my own. So, well, look, it's a pleasure talking to you and I could keep.
I know, I can talk about this all day.